A very warm welcome to everybody watching For Fox's Sake. It's myself, Pete Selby, James Terrell and Sam Cook discussing all things new signings. Great. We've got some new signings. We need some, don't we? But great to have your company. If you're watching live, do get involved with the show. Do comment about who you're most looking forward to seeing in a Leicester shirt with all the new signings. We'll go through them one by one. So do comment as we go through the evening, whether you're watching on Facebook or maybe on YouTube or on X or on Twitter. If you're listening to this, on the recording of this, maybe tomorrow morning on your commute, then a very warm welcome to the show once again. And also make sure you do give us a rating as well. If you're listening on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating, give us 5 stars. It really helps the podcast. Quick plug for foxsake.news. Plenty of information regarding the new signings with Andy Moore and with Rob Hayes going through each of the new signings in more detail. And also for the rest of the week as well. There's plenty with the top 100 Leicester City players counting down. We're into the mid-70s now, and we're looking right back into the Foss days, actually, in this segment. And also a guy who scored some very, very famous goals for the football club around the 80s, the early 80s. So, yeah, do take a look at forfox8.news. And if you want to subscribe, you can do for the price of a pint per month. And that keeps the podcast completely free. So that's the first plug out the way. Gents, quickly, James, on a rating out of 10, how well do you think Leicester did on transfer deadline day for you out of 10? Give it a rating.
5.
A 5. And understandably, a slightly cautious 5 from James. He's been cautious all season, and he's proved right. He's been proved right. Sam, are you a little bit more optimistic about the deals done on deadline day?
Yeah, I am exactly a little bit more optimistic. I would say a 6.
Oh, a 6. I am going to go for a 7. Okay. Mainly because I was going to go for a 6, but I'm going to go for a 7. Okay. Because I am actually quite encouraged by the deals that we've done. Okay. We're going to start with, I think the headline, I think there's 2 headlines with what we've done. One is that we haven't brought in an experienced striker. We'll come on to the striker that we've brought in. And I think that is the headline, because I think if you asked every single Leicester City fan out there, what kind of player do we need? We need a centre forward, or 2 really. And that experienced centre forward hasn't come in. Okay. But I think the headline signing really has to be the signing of Jamaal Lascelles from Newcastle for a side who hasn't kept a clean sheet since the old king was alive. It's much needed boost at the back, but I think he will bring an awful lot more as well. And it's an interesting signing because it's a permanent deal until the summer. Okay, for a guy who's had a lot of injuries, etc. Is 34. But he's just the sort of player I think we need on the field. I think the sort of player we need off the field. And I'm greatly encouraged by this. And he's the most, he's not the most exciting player out of these, but I think he's probably going to be the most important. Sam, do you agree with that? I think you do.
Completely, yeah. I think he's, when we signed Connor Cody a couple of seasons ago, didn't quite work out, but that is exactly what we wanted from that signing. And I think maybe we have with this one is that leadership, that maturity, that experience. His first interview with the club, okay, it's a softball interview with the club, but he said the word professionalism, I think, about 12 times. Whether he was fed that, I don't know, but he really seems to take that on, that leadership, that experience, even if he doesn't play a minute on the pitch, and I think he will. Just being around the training sessions and showing the young players, the standard of what is expected at that level, which we've been saying this whole season, that the application, the complacency, I think he'll go a long way. I hope he'll go a long way to correcting some of that behaviour.
Yeah, James, do you echo the thoughts of Sam?
Well, he's obviously a very experienced Premier League player, and that's always a good thing to bring into a Championship team. I think he was well regarded at Newcastle. Obviously, the potential downside, he's only played 40 games in the last 4 seasons. Which obviously poses a lot of questions about how fit he is. What's his long-term fitness going to be? Can he play 2 games a week for the next X amount of months that we've got left of the season, 3, 4. But maybe he's not been brought in to do that. He's probably been brought in to play once a week, bit of leadership, maybe bring as Sam said, a bit of professionalism, change the dressing room a little bit. I always remember when Connor Cody joined Everton, and I think he joined at the same time as James Tarkowski, and Frank Lampard was the manager then, and he said instantly they revolutionized the dressing room just because of how intensely they trained and how much work they put in. So hopefully that might rub off. Also, don't think it will be a bad idea for Ben Nelson to be playing alongside a very experienced Premier League centre back who's probably played a few European games. That isn't Wout Faz. That I think that's always helpful. So yeah, I think it's a decent signing. There are some potential pitfalls with it, mainly on the fitness issue, but hopefully, he passed his medical, so
that's the thing. He's passed his medical and he's here till the summer. Now, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be the same as players that we've signed previously. But I've just got a bit of a feeling in my waters, sports fans, and it reminds me of maybe Robert Huth signing. And Robert Huth completely revolutionized our defense and ultimately led to the miracle of staying up. And then, of course, we went on and won the Premier League. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to do that, but I get the same kind of impression here with Jamaal Lascelles. Now, the first thing I would do is I would give him the captain's armband. Okay, I know he's on a short-term contract until the summer. Doesn't matter. Give him the captain's armband. Now, there are obviously fitness doubts about him, but I love what he's said so far. He's mentioned the word, as you mentioned, some professionalism, okay? And that's exactly what we need. Put him right in the slap bang in the middle of defense, okay? What I would do if I was Andy King is turn around to him and say, what kind of defense do you want to play alongside? Do you want to have Yannick Vestergaard alongside you? Would you like Nelson to one side, or who do you want at fullback? Okay, this is what we've got. Give him control. This is a 34-year-old, as you said, who spent 12 years at Newcastle, a very good player, formerly of Forest. I think it's a tremendous signing. Obviously, if he can be fit and play for the majority of the games between now and the end of the season. But I think this is a brilliant signing and one that I hope can be made even more long-term in the summer, because it's just exactly the sort of player that Leicester need to be signing to get us out of this mess. And that mess is possible relegation with a points deduction. So I'm really, really hopeful for this. And it just has a little bit of echo about what happened with Robert Huth. But first of all, for me, give him the captain's armband straight away. And that's no smirch on Ricardo. Maybe it is, but there we go. That's what I would do straight away. Okay, so we've got a big tick next to Jamaal Lascelles. We're gonna have a look at Divine Mikasa then from Manchester City. Then this is an interesting signing. If you go to for Fox8.news, then Rob Hayes has done a bit of a deep dive on the player, and you can read more there. But he's played in the Premier League, he's played in Europe, he's played in cup competitions. He's a very exciting player, very exciting midfielder. And he's the sort of player where instantly when you sign a player like this on loan, you wonder what status they are in their own career. Are they 6 months to a year too early to make the step up into first team football, or are they that first team football ready player who just can't get a look in at their side, no matter who they are, whether they're a lower league Premier League side or Manchester City, and they just need minutes? And when his name was first mentioned, I'm not going to lie, didn't know him. And I thought that maybe we've got a player who's probably not ready for the Championship. But after reading what Rob Hayes wrote on for Fox8.news under the headline Divine Intervention, I'm really quite excited by him, James. I think we may have got a little bit of a star on our hands only for the next 6 months, because he's very well liked by Manchester City.
Yeah, well, his record so far this season is okay. In the Premier League 2, which I assume is what they call the under-23 league, he's got 1 goal in 6 games. The UEFA Youth League, 4 goals in 4. In the the Coca-Cola Cup, as it should always be known as. He 1 assist in 3 appearances, and then he's come on as a sub in a Premier League game as well. I mean, ultimately, with young players, you have to expect inconsistency, and probably that he isn't going to play every single minute of the next 18 games or however many we've got left. But yeah, I think it's a free hit, basically. If he doesn't do that well, I imagine we haven't taken on too much of his wages and that type of thing because he's a young player. He might pop up with the odd goal. He might bring a bit of excitement, a bit of dynamism, a bit of, enthusiasm just to his play because he's getting to play first team football and the excitement that comes with that. The idea of a kind of forward 3 of Fatawu, Monga, and this guy seems quite a really exciting, really interesting thing. That there's all kinds of pitfalls with that, with 2 of them being children. But yeah, I think it's a very interesting signing, and I hope that we haven't taken too much of a financial punt on it, which I can't imagine that we have. But
No, I don't think so.
yeah, he's Pep has the most expensive squad assembled in football history. He's not going to play him if he doesn't have some kind of feeling that he might be worth something. And he's played him 3 times in the League Cup, and I can't, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know that much about the UEFA Youth League, but it's going to be a decent standard. So yeah, why not? May as well give him a go. And he can't be any worse than Carenza was. So it's got to be a step up from Carenza.
You hope not. Anyway, a couple of things that James mentioned there, Sam, which caught my eye, which I completely agree with. First of all, free hit. The one thing with that is, yes, it is a free hit, but also, we really do need reinforcement. So maybe we can't take a gamble on a player, but I think this guy is ready for first team football. I think he is just over that edge that I mentioned earlier. Is he ready for first team football? I think he is. And the second word was dynamism. And I had written down legs, basically, a bit of pace, a bit of legs in midfield, because even with Jordan James, and then you've got Skip alongside. Now, the next time them two play against or alongside each other, it might be for a while. I think we do need a little bit of legs in midfield. We're going to come on to more signings shortly, but yeah, a little bit of pace, a little bit of youth, and hopefully an ability that is equal to or hopefully more than some of our youth players coming through. That would be the only slight criticism, because you're getting a young player from a top Premier League side to basically trump our young players, and we'll come on to the forward line with that. Does that concern you at all, or is it at the point that we're beggars can't be choosers?
It doesn't concern me, because I think with our young players we know what we have, and the Jake Evans, isn't it, that went out to Newport, I think. We've obviously taken a look and said he's not going to get enough minutes in the Championship, so it's better for him to get minutes somewhere else. And then we bring in a complete risk who also might not get minutes. We don't know. We don't really know very much about him. Obviously, there's potential there. But if we sit him on the bench for 6 months, we're not really that fussed about stalling his development as a footballer, because he's not our player. So I think it's more important for our youth players, long term, to go out and get minutes. And, maybe this player's the second coming, and maybe he's useless. We just don't know. I mean, we're going to find out because he's going to play, because my goodness, we need bodies. But it's certainly, I think the risk for the club is beyond this season. I think is pretty sensible how we've managed it.
Yes, and it's again in a position, you're talking midfield, attacking midfielder. So it's a position where we do lack a little bit as well in that position. When you look at Decordova-Reid and the problems that Ramsey's had, for example, in that central position. So hopefully, and whether we're going to carry on playing him with that formation, we don't know. But at the moment we are, because it seems to be painted on the wall of the first team dressing room at the King Power. We move on to probably, I would say, the most controversial of all signings with Leicester fans. And I think that's based on what we've heard from Southampton fans. Now, I will give my point of view about Joe Aribo after I've heard from you guys. So when you heard that Joe Aribo was going to sign for Leicester, and again, this is a loan signing until the end of the season, so do bear that in mind as well. Sam, what was your initial thoughts, and what do you now think? Has it changed in the 24 odd hours since he's been photoed wearing a Leicester shirt?
My first thought was another Southampton signing. Southampton cast-offs haven't had the best track record at our club. I don't know. I mean, he's not getting a look in at a Southampton side that has been very good and also very poor this season, I think is fair to say. And he hasn't really played in either of those incarnations. Honestly, my whole perspective for the transfer window in general is, we're beggars can't be choosers, and we are beggars. We are not signing players that other clubs would want to have. We've got the PSR constraints that we have over us. We've got our, I'm sure the players know that there is not the best atmosphere at the club. Okay, the facilities are first rate and second to none, rather. But bottom half of the championship, struggling, fan base that isn't quite on board. It's not the most attractive, and especially, loan signings for 6 months. If you're signing a 4-year deal, okay, you can maybe think, we'll turn it around. This is a good club to be at. But to be here until the summer when it's not the best atmosphere, we're not going to attract the cream of the crop, I don't think. And so we're going to get players that are out of favor at, rival clubs and things like that. Joe Aribo, as a player, I mean, he plays sort of a number 8, I think, right? So that's a position that we need. With JJ out, with Ramsey out, we need someone, and he is a someone. And that's, I'm sure I don't have a problem with that signing.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. We've just lost James there for now, so I'll pick up on Joe Aribo, and many people will know I work for Southampton. I do their highlights commentary, so I've seen Joe an awful lot in fits and starts in his career, which I think you can kind of label his Southampton career. It's not really taken off the way it did elsewhere at Rangers, etc. And people have been picking up on what Steven Gerrard's once said about him at Rangers. I think the reason, well, first of all, he's not playing at Southampton. Okay, when they changed their manager, they changed their style, and it's not the style of the counter-attacking Southampton. It doesn't suit Joe Aribo. Also, with the 3 players that they had in behind the centre forward, they were all very good for the Championship, and they're all very quick, very direct, very skillful. And he was just not getting a look in because they would just have a more solid defensive unit in behind that. So there was no real place for Joe. Now, Southampton fans, overall in his career, he hasn't really set the world alight. And also, during his career, Southampton has slipped, like Leicester have, from the Premier League downwards. So people may look at that and say, is he one of the reasons why? Probably. Is he good enough to play in the Premier League? I would argue probably not. But I would say he does come with 1 or 2 aspects to his game which Leicester are severely lacking. First of all, height. I don't think we're a very tall side at all, Vestergaard to one side. So for a guy who's very versatile in terms of where he can play in midfield, he can play out wide, he can play as a number 10. He can also, for me, play up front as well. So first of all, a bit of height, someone to get on the end of a cross, okay? He's very clumsy with the ball, but in a style where I think it's almost, in a way, slightly charming in a way. If you remember when Wilfred Ndidi started to get forward in the Championship winning season, and we all kind of scratched our head, and sometimes it worked, didn't it? It would cross and Vardy would score, but it was almost like a little bit of a, you were willing him on from the touchline. I just sensed that Joe Aribo, and I said this to Rob when he was, and Andy, when he signed, I said, I just get the feeling that I think the King Power crowd will really take to him, because even though he has been labelled by Southampton supporters as being a bit lazy, etc., I just think that's an overall term for his whole career at Southampton not working out. I've always been quite not impressed with the way he is on the field, but I've always thought he's up for it. He's actually up for the for the game, and it's just not worked out. Again, clumsy control-wise, but at times it can work out. He can get on the end of crosses. He can shoot from distance. He can score. He can set up. He's not the greatest player in the world, but he just adds something completely different. I think he's going to frustrate and excite in completely equal amounts, hopefully more of the delights. And he's a very versatile positional-wise player, again, so very handy. And I think as a loan signing, I wouldn't be concerned the fact that he's come from another championship club, again, because they've completely changed the way they're playing. It doesn't suit Joe Aribo at all. So, also, I believe that they sign him knowing that they probably wouldn't get an experienced centre forward, and maybe looking to him and going, well, hang on, could he play as a centre forward? And I think the case is that he probably can. Great to have James back. So James is back now. I was just saying, James, about Joe Aribo. I'm a little bit more impressed than I think a lot of Leicester fans. I've obviously covered Southampton for years and years, seen Joe, and he's been ultimately quite frustrating, but he brings a lot of qualities that we don't have. I mentioned height, I mentioned complete versatility in position. We can play virtually anywhere, really. He's going to frustrate Leicester fans with his control and his passing, but also when it works, it will work, and it can click, and he can score goals and get on the end of crosses. And I just think he might be that player who the Leicester fans actually quite take to, because I think he's going to work hard. First of all, he's working for a new contract as well. So he's working for a contract at the football club. So I think he might be a bit more of a hit than what people think originally when he's first signed. Just your thoughts, James, of when he did sign. What were your first thoughts? And now have you changed after maybe giving it 24 hours or so?
I mean, I didn't really know that much about him when he signed, so my thoughts were fairly neutral. I mean, I was looking, obviously, going through it is, his career and his stats, and he's won trophies: Scottish Premiership, Scottish Cup, Europa League runner-up, won the Championship playoffs, won the League One playoffs, African Cup of Nations runner-up. Very experienced international footballer. Again, the big difference between obviously the signings that we're making this year and last year is that we're signing players that the clubs that we're buying from want them to leave. We're not forcing clubs to sell their best players to us, which is obviously a massive difference. So there is obviously an element of beggars can't be choosers. But even if he isn't the most, graceful player, we're not in the position where we're signing James Maddison or Yuri Tielemans anymore. So I think, again, signing someone who is very hardworking, very experienced, has played at all different levels, which I think can be really helpful. He's played at League One, but he's also played in a European final. There aren't many players that have done that, and that kind of career and life experience, I think, could be really helpful to the team. What I'm hoping from these two players, Lascelles and Aribo, is that they can offer some kind of stability to the kind of emotional tenor of the team, because that's one of, if not the biggest problem so far, is that the team psychologically cannot control their emotions. They can't control it if they're 1-0 down or they're 1-0 up. It seems equally dangerous for this team. We go 1-0 up, we freeze. We go 1-0 down, we freeze. There's kind of no in between. So hopefully having a couple of really experienced players that have played at Championship and Premier League and European level, they'll be able to settle the nerves, and maybe that might also help settle the nerves of the fans, which are they're just completely on edge. They are one bad pass away from just this tension. There's a tension in the crowd constantly. And one of the things that we need to do over the next 4 months is try and lessen that tension. So yeah, again, we're signing someone who's not played very much football this year, which is never the best signing. You want someone who's coming in fully match fit, game ready. But again, we're not in that position as a football club to be signing those players. So you're just hoping that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, you know a lot more about Southampton than we do. I imagine that our training facilities are as good, if not better, than Southampton's, which is obviously going to help him. And I guess when we get on to what we talked about, Divine, that'd be one of the reasons I think Pep can be quite choosy about who he sends his players on loan to, because he doesn't just want them going to play for long ball football teams, because what's the point in terms of him? And obviously Man City probably have the best training facilities in the world, because the oil comes out of the ground and it goes straight to Manchester. So yeah, again, I don't think it's a terrible signing. It's not the most exciting signing in the world, of signing a combative midfielder who, passes like Paul Scholes tackles. But why not? I think it could work. And again, it's
a player. It's a body in the squad that we need, and I think it just brings that extra little bit of something to the side, which we just don't have. And again, versatility wise, it's exactly kind of what we needed. And again, a little bit of height, etc. And he's going to be playing for that contract as well. He's going to be playing for the contract. When it comes to our final player, Deshaun Richards, I'm going to go Dujon. Duan Richards. I don't know, but anyway, we'll find out. Okay, young striker from Chelsea. Okay, who's played plenty of times for his country. He's played for Jamaica. It's interesting because he's 20 years old. Okay, he's played 14 times for his country. It's a signing which instantly I looked at and went, well, hang on. Where's the experienced centre forward that we need for 6 months? Where's the guy who we know can score goals at this level, who maybe has even slipped down a level and not got inside? Who's that guy who can get on the end of a cross? Who's that guy who can finish off a chance? Okay, it doesn't need to be a complete world beater. It could be someone who is at the other end of the spectrum to Richards. Okay, you look at, say, Kevin Phillips back in the day when he arrived at Leicester. I know he came in a different scenario, but that sort of player at that sort of age, I don't think would have been a bad signing. Okay, because we will create chances. But with this guy, it's first of all interesting that Jake Evans goes out on loan to Northampton. Okay, so we've got rid of a guy who essentially has scored so many goals in youth football for Leicester and can't get a look in at the first team. And we replaced him essentially with a guy who has scored a lot of goals at youth football, but he plays for a different side. That seems quite strange to me. But then you look at the guy you look at his size, 6'2". You look at the fact that he's 20 years old, so it's not a 17 or 18-year-old who has actually got plenty of experience, but has probably gone under the radar of many fans, mainly because of the 75 first-team players at Chelsea and the fact that their training ground is a revolving door. Stamford Bridge is a revolving door. Who knows who plays for them, okay? And who's in their system? Who's in the Blueco system of Strasbourg and everywhere else, manager-wise, let alone player-wise? So,
Raheem Sterling's just walked away for free. Exactly. That's kind of how crazy the situation at Chelsea is in the minute.
It's no surprise that a guy like this goes under the radar of your average football fan. And okay, we're looking Championship at the moment, but it's a complete throw of some dice, isn't it? I don't know. You don't know. None of us knows if this guy's going to be a hit. The one thing that I'm encouraged by, the two things actually with this guy, two things. First of all, his age, the fact that he's 20, and it's almost a bit of I need to go. I need to leave this club because I'm not going to break into the Chelsea first team. Okay, that dream is probably gone until they sign me again, hopefully after being a complete smash hit at Leicester. And he signs for Leicester for $5 million in the summer and then scores 34 goals in Leicester's promotion campaign next year. That would be an ideal scenario. And then he can go and play for Chelsea when we sell you for $55 million.
But he's not
going to break into that side. He's reached that level of his life where he's going to need to play first team football. Brilliant. So that's 20 years old. great. So he might be one of them players. Look, I'm playing for a contract. Maybe not at Leicester, but maybe elsewhere. Who knows? So that's great. It's not a player who's 17 or 18 years old who's been told, go and play out on loan, and he's never left London before, and he's been sent up to Leicester, and he goes, I don't want to do this. This is not what, I've got dreams bigger than this, and basically can't be asked. I don't think it's that. And the second is the fact that he's 6'2". And again, I mentioned with Joe Aribo, we don't have a lot of heights when it comes to the forward line, or from anything from midfield onwards, basically, do we? So a bit of height, brilliant. To get on the end of a cross, great. It's exactly what we need, because it's something we haven't had for an awful long time, probably since Enzo Maresca, really, when it comes to a forward line. So I'm actually quite encouraged by this signing. It's a complete unknown. Who knows? It could be a dud. But for those two aspects of what we see written down by the football club with his announced signing, I'm a little bit more encouraged now than I was when he was first linked and then initially signed for the club on loan. Sam, what do you reckon?
Set the fun sponge klaxon off. New exciting young players, great, and maybe we've got a hit. But I think the one big concern I have is he's coming off the back of an ACL, a bad ACL injury. He missed the entirety of the 24-25 season. He's only 20, but he's missed an entire season. So his year, his development, he might as well be 18, 19. I don't know how much he's played this year in the 25-26 season.
I've got that here if you want it.
Oh, yeah.
So in the Premier League 2, 10 appearances, 2 goals, 461 minutes. The Premier League International Cup under 21s, I don't know what that is, but 2 appearances, 118 minutes, and he played 1 game in the EFL Trophy, which I assume is for Chelsea B.
Okay, so he's played 13 games in just over 2 years.
Yeah.
So, he's
chomping at the bit.
He's going to be hungry, right? He's going to be motivated. He's going to be absolutely desperate to get on the pitch and do his stuff. Brilliant. But in terms of development, yeah, okay, a 20-year-old, bit more mature, perhaps, and he's gone through some adversity, and hopefully that's given him a bit of maturity, a bit of steel. Fantastic. But in terms of his actual, his game sense, maybe he's a little behind other 20-year-olds of his cohort. But big, physical, hungry, I'll take that, because we don't have that. And if there's a bit of a footballer there too, then even better.
James, what do you reckon about this guy? It is a curveball, isn't it? I think it's certainly, and it is with every signing. You could sign a player. We've signed players for 10s, 20, 30 million pounds, 40 million.
Well, you mentioned Silmani a minute ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly.
Million, and he did nothing.
Club record signing.
Well, I mean, I'd love to do a deep dive on Enzo Maresca's Leicester career and what went wrong, but also what went right as well. Because I think if you look at what went right with Slimani, maybe they should have pinpointed what went right and maybe provide that a little bit more. Because when he was on form and scored goals, he needed the service, essentially. And unfortunately, he joined. I think he joined at the wrong time. If he joined a year later, because he joined after all the success, we were still playing in that way. And then he wasn't suited to that style of football at all. And so we had to kind of slightly adapt to bring him in. And then it didn't work out. And then it didn't work out with Ranieri, etc. And overall. But I think if he came into the side that needed a little bit of a shake-up at the time, then he should have been a big hit. But anyway, that's a different show. But yeah, James. So this guy, this Richards, do you see him being a big hit at the club?
Well, I mean, as you say, all of these things are ultimately a stab in the dark, even at the most, experienced level. Roy Keane talks about how you can do all your scouting, you can do all your research, you can meet them, but until they actually join the football club, you never know, really, until they're actually there working. But I'm hoping that he's not. I'm not suggesting he's going to be unprofessional or anything like that. The question with him and the other with Mr. Devine, is, will they be able to cope with the pressure of playing quote unquote men's football? I don't know if he still thinks this, but definitely 4 or 5 years ago, Pep was talking about how in England, it didn't really apply to Spain, is that there's a massive gap in level between under 21s and professional football that was much smaller in Spain, and I think in Germany as well. Now, I imagine that's improved over the last few years. So these two players are taking a massive step up. As far as I can see, he's only played one professional game of football in his career, which is playing in the Johnston Paint Trophy, which is obviously what it should be called because that's what it was called when we played in it. So that's all that matters. So yeah, I mean,
it's a curveball, isn't it? It's first of all, it's a position where we needed someone, and I just hope it's not the case of they've looked at the list of strikers available and then they've just gone, right, this is the guy that we can get. We've got to get someone in.
Yeah, I think that is
had a mad scramble for it.
And again, you're thinking we probably haven't taken too much of a financial hit on it.
No,
I don't really know the ins and outs of how loan moves work to any degree. You know, I'm not Fabrizio Romano. I'm not Mason Greenwood's cheerleader like he is. But yeah, we hopefully haven't spent too much money on it. We've got, I don't know exactly how many games we've got left. I should really know that, but let's have a look.
Well, it's a case of having
16.
No strikers, essentially. It's a case of having Patson Daka, who is out of favour, and we know exactly what sort of player he is. And
So we've got 12
who
left. If these two, child strikers that we've signed, score 5 goals between them in the next 12 games, I would take that as a win. Yeah.
And again, we've used the term beggars can't be choosers a few times, and I think this just certainly applies. Just have a few quick comments. First of all, Redback says hello, hi. We've also got Planet Earth with the recent rumours regarding Enzo coming back. Maybe asked about Richards. My first thought when I saw the Enzo rumour, which came from the Mirror, I think, I just thought
it was
never in a million years is that going to happen. Never in a million years. Now, would I want Enzo Maresca back at the football club? I think the answer is a big yes. And I think if you think now, I don't want to tell people what to think. Everyone's got their own opinion. I think if you look back and go, actually, I don't want Enzo Maresca back at the football club, I think that would be completely crazy. I think there's people, again, that you can talk to. I think you're getting a guy who's, won the league at Leicester. We know can take control of a changing room. The football wasn't okay to some people's liking, but it was ultimately very successful. The whole transfer activity that came back to the club, surely it would just be given overwhelming control. But also, I think it's about 500 to 1. I don't think it'll happen in a million years.
Yeah, well, I think Enzo, I imagine, does have quite a lot of emotion attached to the club. We gave him his first go, and I don't think if, say, I'm trying to think who needed a manager in that season. If Crystal Palace came for him, I don't necessarily think he would have left us for Crystal Palace, say, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to do if Chelsea come in for you? You're going to go.
Yeah.
It's just the way the world works.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look back,
a bit of time off, obviously, football managers work insanely hard, and I think they're quite open about how they don't spend enough time with their wives or their secret husbands or their children and that type of thing. You might want to break, but maybe you just think, I'll go in for 6 months, see if I can help out. The only issue issue I can see with it is him. He goes there, we get a points reduction and we get relegated. And then all of a sudden, all of this reputation that he's built over the last 3 years is kind of gone. It's just kind of.
I think he's dining at a completely different table to Leicester at the moment. The only snippet, the only way I can possibly think is that if he attempts to get a job elsewhere and it doesn't work out, and Leicester basically turn around, they're in the Championship, they release the fact that they have the ability to spend money, you know, all the handcuffs have been taken off. The squad has been, everyone's been got rid of who you would imagine that Enzo would want gone. And they turn around and go, here's your football club. You can do anything you want.
No,
you know,
no, that's never going to happen.
Well, you've got plenty of money. Director of football comes in, who's Enzo's pal. Overwhelming control of everything. That's the only reason why I think he could possibly, and I still think that's a complete outside. I think it was a tabloid story. That was an easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was in the Daily Mail.
Yeah, I find it easy to believe the club would reach out, because why wouldn't we?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the story was that we offered it him till the end of the season, high bonus if he keeps us up.
Right, that's very plausible. And him picking up the phone is, you know, possible, and him saying yes is impossible.
There's a few more comments. Tony says we brought in Cassidy and it didn't work out. Good luck to this kid. Exactly. You know, it could be that signing that keeps us up. It could be and also it could be a signing who works out potentially every now and again. He scores a few goals and he looks good. Maybe he could turn into a signing. Maybe it could turn into a cheap signing. Yeah. We'll go, yeah, there's a big future in this kid.
Honestly, I'd take a Cassidy. I'd take a Cassidy again. He was fine, right? All we're looking for the next 6 months is fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
he was like, okay, he wasn't, you know, a world beater, but he was absolutely serviceable, and that's all we need. Just stay up in the Championship this season, reset in the summer.
I feel better about the young lads since Aribo and Lascelles have got experience. Exactly, and then we've got Rudkin. Rudkin was Enzo's big stumbling block. He would have gone, still gone if Rudkin still in his position. Yeah, and again, I just think it's the Chelsea thing as well. Chelsea come knocking, you know, you're not going to turn them down as well. And also, what we were talking about actually at the start of the show, hope these youngsters don't push Page out, says Tony. And I think that's the danger, isn't it? Because we've pushed out Evans, who may come back in the summer after his loan spell at Northampton after scoring, you know, 6 or 7 goals there, and then he'll be a completely different player, and you know, he's older, more mature, stronger, and he's ready for first team football, and then he can come into the first team squad and play, because we all think he's a good striker, or we've all heard he's a good striker. We haven't seen it yet in the first team, so maybe he's just not quite ready. But when you do sign a couple of young players like we have done, all of a sudden you look at the players that we've got who are young, who we know are very good, and yeah, does it slightly push them out? Obviously, with Devine, he's going to come in a position where Page is currently playing, maybe slightly more further forward. My first thought would be, yeah, agree with Tony. Hopefully, he doesn't push him out. But secondly, hopefully, they both know each other and go, brilliant, this is great. He's my pal, actually. Come and play here for 6 months. And it may even be the fact that even though we think that Manchester City, and all the words from the city is that they really like him, it might not work out. Rumours are Pep Guardiola will be going in the summer anyway, so it just might not work out.
Yeah, and Enzo's number one choice, isn't he, as well at Chelsea, pretty much? I think.
He's played at Leicester. Oh, maybe it could be a signing in the summer, so who knows? But yeah, completely agree with Tony. What we don't want to sign is young players who limit our young players' first team opportunities. But overall, my last question, very quickly. After this chat over 43 minutes, Sam, have you turned your 6 out of 10 into a higher mark for the transfer deadline day?
We were never going to hit 10, right? With the constraints that we have.
No.
So is it like a relative, given all of our constraints, I think it's a 7 or an 8. Given, if you take the constraints away, then it's a 6, right? Because we're still a pretty mediocre and uncertain squad. But I think, honestly, if the best possible transfer window would have been a 7 or an 8. Really. So 6, I think, is actually, given the circumstances, pretty good.
I agree. I get exactly where you're coming from. James, you gave it a 5 out of 10 44 minutes ago. Oh, have you gone up to a 6 out of 10 after the chat that we've just had?
Oh, I'm going up to 15 out of 10. You know, I've been completely convinced. I think...
With a straight face, he said that as well, sports fans.
I I think the last summer transfer window, and I don't really remember, did we make any signings in January when we were in the Premier League? I have no real memory of them. And then
I
that
think
summer
Koulibaly,
transfer.
but he wasn't a player. He wasn't a player. Who was,
I think he's inside Filbert Fox.
No, Filbert Fox doesn't have anyone inside him, Sam. That's a real fox. I don't know if this is an aside. This is an aside. It's a complete tangent, but me and my friend were talking about how we had I had a Leicester City birthday when I was like 11. And I was like, I'm sure I met Filbert Fox's wife. Like, I'm sure Filbert Fox has a wife. And so I
Vicky
Googled
Vixen?
it. Yeah.
I think
So
it's his sister, isn't it?
And he has a cousin as well, I think.
Yeah.
Dennis?
Yeah.
And Naughty Dennis. Yeah, Naughty Dennis.
I Googled it, and Gemini, Google's horrific AI, was really passive aggressive and said Filbert Fox is a fictional character and therefore cannot have a wife.
Well, hang on, wait. I'm going to take up that's complete nonsense. I have seen Filbert the Fox since the early 90s down at the King Power in Filbert Street. He's definitely not a fictional character. He's there.
He's
a
real.
good player. We've seen him for years kick the ball around. We've seen him for years kick the ball around better than half of Leicester's midfield before a game. It's ridiculous. Sign him up, get him there. Cousin Dennis, seen him down there. Vicky Vixen, she's not been around for a while. I don't quite know what happened with her and Phil, but I don't want to know. Don't want to pry. Do you know what I mean? It's his own biz. He's got his 50th shirt on at the moment, or maybe that was last season, 2 seasons ago. Yeah, no wrong with Filbert, and he's definitely there. So yeah, that AI slop of a search engine doesn't work out. That's wrong. Anyway,
indulgent, and I know that we're running out of time, but I don't know if you can see this. This was a handmade pillow by my mum. Because she was a curtain maker. It's a Filbert Fox pillow. And you can see like the lining of Leicester City on there.
Filbert. That's what happened to Vicky.
It's Vicky.
Oh my god, we've gone down a tangent here, haven't we?
I think that this is the best transfer window we've had for the last 3. I would say these are the kind of most interesting players that we've signed. You know. I would say you could say maybe Skip's done okay this season. Ayu's trying his best, and he's scored that Panenka. Good on him.
Did he?
Yeah, I think he did. I think it was just a terrible Panenka that went in. It wasn't a very good Panenka.
I agree. I do agree. It's actually one of the best transfer windows we've had for quite a while. We can definitely do a show on inane and strange merchandise that we all have within 2 meters of where we're currently sitting. There's a lot here. There's a lot from various travels around wherever, including obviously Leicester stuff. But yeah, I think I'm greatly encouraged by this transfer window because it's, and I hate the term ticks every box, but it ticks a lot of boxes of what we need. I still think we needed that more experienced striker than we have signed. But who knows? We could be sitting here next year going, what a great guy. He's 20 goals already in the Championship.
Yeah.
Who knows?
But
what you want to do...
I'm still very worried about the fullback position as well.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And there's still obviously time for because free transfers, etc. Players who don't have clubs who may come in. Head to fox8.news. You can see Divine Intervention by Rob Hayes talking about Divine, our new signing. Lascelles joins to boost Foxes. That's from Andy Moore. I've got players 79 to 75 in the top 100 countdown of all-time Leicester City players. We've got a few players from the 80s and a few FOSS players, including who may be the highest of the FOSS players in this countdown. I think there may be one more. We'll see. Aribo. City have a new signing from Rob Hayes again. More on Joe Aribo. And also 5 things we learned from the game against Charlton, which we've handily overlooked during this podcast. And also, and it might seem an awful long time ago after all these signings, etc., but a lovely long column, good read by Andy Moore on Martí Cifuentes. Where did it all go wrong? And you can look back on the time of Martí Cifuentes at some of the high points, there weren't many, and plenty of the low points. And Andy's gone into detail about where it all went wrong. That's all on for fox8.news. It costs £5 to join. That's £5 per month, the price of a pint. And what you get that, and you get a whole lot more every single day on forfox8.news. Check it out first. And then if you want to subscribe, please do. And what that does as well, it keeps this podcast completely free. The podcast for Fox 8 alongside for fox8.news. So head over there. And if you can join, brilliant. And there's some really good and exciting content coming up soon. And also plenty of competitions as well, exclusively for members. But that's it for the podcast this week. Fingers crossed about what happens at the weekend. More from For Fox 8 this week. We'll have the preview for the Birmingham game coming up later in the week with Rob Hayes. But from Sam, from James, and from myself, up the city. And fingers crossed, these new signings hit the ground running. Who knows? All four might play against Birmingham. Where they sit in the side, we'll probably have more information by the time the preview comes out later in the week. Look out for that and look out for more on forfox8.news.